What is up, everybody? My name is Maggie, and welcome to Nursing Uncharted for our very first interview. We're going to kickstart this podcast by sitting down with a fellow nurse and friend, Sam Reddington. Sam graduated, I know. So a little bit about Sam. Sam graduated from Radford University with her BSN in 2014. And she's been a critical care nurse for 7 years now. So for the past year, Sam has predominantly been working in the COVID ICU. She's been an integral part of her ICU team. I've watched her work. She is serving in leadership positions. She's committee head, charge nurse, and best of all, she serves as preceptor for new ICU nurses. So therefore, she's precepting me because I'm transitioning as a traveler into an ICU nurse. So currently, Sam lives in Virginia with her fiance and their dog, Sylvester. And also, congratulations are in order because Sam and her fiance are getting married in June after having to postpone their wedding twice because of COVID. I feel you there, girl. So welcome to the show, Sam.
Yay. Thanks, Maggie. I'm so excited to be here. This is so crazy.
I know.
I'm so happy. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're here. So,
yeah.
And I know, and you
great.
worked last night. So thank you so much for transitioning over, flipping schedules, and being on here.
Yeah, nursing life, right?
Yeah, I know. How was your shift?
It was busy. I was charged up in the COVID ICU again. So
okay.
It was busy, but I can't complain. It was a good night. Good people, just kept it moving.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
How many people are over there right now? It's dwindling down, right?
Yeah, our census has stayed under 10 to 15 patients.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been up and down, but a lot better since February. That was probably when we hit our highest peak, and it's been about the same, but nothing crazy. So I can't complain.
Well, that's good. I know, probably nothing it's you probably have, I'm sure you have a groove of how it goes now in that space.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of get into just a rhythm of things. And now this has become our new normal, which actually recently one of my other co-charges, we were talking about that. We're like, isn't it crazy when you think about where we were a year ago? This is normal now. And I remember last year, walking into the unit as charge and being like, what am I doing here? How am I going to support my staff and make sure everybody feels well taken care of for me and feel like they can provide safe care for their patients? And, looking back at that, seeing the growth between myself, but also the growth within, my peers is pretty incredible. And I'm very proud of the resiliency of my coworkers. It's pretty crazy.
I can't imagine. As charge nurse, and I can't even, I don't want to I'm not romanticizing it, but to think of I don't know, when I think of charge nurse in the COVID ICU, it's just there's so much responsibility there. Mm-hmm. There's so much just charge in general. I used to be charge, you oversee the entire unit and you have nurses and you're putting out fires. Oh, and COVID, on top of it, and having no policies and they're, just figuring everything out. I just can't, it's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know how we've done it. I think our location of the hospital, we've been pretty lucky in a sense where we're in a urban-ish area, not, surrounded by country, but we have the little mini city, the micro city here. Yeah. So we never surged in the way that my colleagues that I used to work with in Boston did, or New York City, but we did surge in our own sense, but being the shift manager here and also being one of the practice chairs, we did so much last year, and now it's kind of nice seeing all of our hard work get, I don't know, not rewarded, because it is not a reward. This has been such a challenging year. But seeing some of the tip sheets and the little mini policy things that we were doing just for our unit go hospital wide. Like, that's pretty cool to see, like, some of the things that you were implementing or had ideas now come full forward, or that's not the word I'm looking for.
Come
but
full circle.
Yeah.
Know? I mean,
which is pretty wild.
Like, like you guys and the acute care side of, I mean, you guys of COVID, like you had to figure out all of these policies on your own. It wasn't like, people were coming up with like research projects on how to, navigate all this stuff. It was kind of like on the fly, what's going to work, what's, there's an insane amount of teamwork that has to go in to all of that. When I came back, I came back as a traveler to this hospital, and I worked at a different hospital in Florida for like quarantine during COVID. And the difference in policies were so palpable. Like, I mean, they were, like, where we work now is like such a, like, it's amazing what like structure and organization and policy and teamwork and communication can do for a situation like this, So
yeah, it's crazy. I think the one thing that this hospital does is like sees a problem, tries to fix a problem. And I got to help with that, and that's really cool. And one of the nurses that works on the acute care side, he said 2020 was a research project. Like, that whole year, everything we did, it was a research project. Now we're just looking back to be like, okay, what have we learned?
Yeah.
And that's what my medical director has said for months now is, okay, well, what have we learned? What can we continue to improve upon to continue having good patient outcomes? And, I think our outcomes have been pretty exceptional nationwide. I think that's a testament to, the diligence of work that we've had within like our colleagues to provide good care for the patients. And also we were pretty fortunate with our staffing. So as crazy it's been, we were pretty lucky not having to be tripled and a shared ventilator. I was hearing horror stories from New York City. So, that part of things was fortunate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was thinking of that too. I mean, I never had, even as a traveler, I never had like, it was almost like the worst like stress of COVID was not having the supplies, not knowing what was going on, like the patient's acuity, but the staffing at both places, I never had more than 4 COVID patients, and it's like that. In other places, they weren't, they're not so lucky. I mean, there was a ton of places that were, just hemorrhaging nurses and, so yeah, you're pretty lucky.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about precepting because you're my preceptor. How do you like precepting? Like, do you think that it's fulfilling? Is it like, are there, tell me a little bit about like tell me a little bit about like what precepting entails, for the general population, but also how you like it. Sure.
I like it. I've grown to like it. I think I actually find precepting to be harder to me than being a shift manager. It requires so much patience, and I've never been known for being sometimes the most patient person, and learning to kind of sit on your hands a little bit and backing away. And I think that skill, some people are born with that. Some people are born teachers in that sense. I like to teach people, but having that patience and know-withal to be able to be like, I'm going to teach you this. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to trust that you can do that, and trust that you can ask me questions. That's taken years for me to feel comfortable doing, like so long. And I think within the past probably 2 to 3 years, I think I've really grown in my precepting skills. I find joy in it now. It's really cool to watch someone week one come in, like your week one last week. We had a busy week.
My God, I know.
It was a busy couple of shifts.
And I jumped right. I thought, honestly, like, that first shift, I was like, oh, I'm just going to relax. Like, I'm going to shadow Sam. Like, no, that's girl. Not how it happens.
Let's go. We got to go.
Jumped right in with that.
We jumped right in. I feel like that's my, I don't know. That's who I am as a person. We are not going to, we're not going to kind of tiptoe into the ocean. We are going full force. We are diving into that wave.
Yeah.
But that's critical care nursing, right? Like, that's the beauty of it, is you just got to go for it. And I think, that is what attracted me to this job, is full force. I'm a bull in a china shop, man. You see me at work, personal life, wherever. I am like bull in a china shop, and sometimes it's my greatest, asset. I'm just like, let's go. Don't know what's going on. I don't care what's going on around me. Like, I'm a girl on a mission. We're gonna go.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's like my best quality. It's sometimes my least, the
other night,
attribute.
oh my God, when we had that lady was like, her heart rate was like 60s. 20s, and we saw it, and you're like, that's real, and
we gotta go.
We grabbed the Go-Kart, like slammed it into the nurse's station. You like messed up your finger or something, like, but you were in there like a shot. I was like, oh my God, like, this is happening on night 2. Like,
yeah.
What is happening?
Not the most,
jumped right in.
Not the most graceful of people, but I think, excuse me, just diving headfirst into anything, right? I think that's what makes me a good ICU nurse, is I'm not really afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not, the most graceful of things, but I think also I bring that out in other people. And I've actually had my fair share of very shy and very reserved orientees. And when I first have met them, I've had actually, I think, 3 where they've just a little bit quieter. I talk a lot, and they're just kind of listening to me. And by the end of their orientation, they're completely out of their shells, socializing and feeling confident and coming into work and like chatting with people. And I think that's a big thing to be able to feel confident in. And if I can get anything out of, besides being a good ICU nurse, out of people, is feeling confident in the skin that they're in and where they are professionally. It doesn't always work out, but I think that's one of my like better qualities as a preceptor, is like, we're going to be girls, girl and boy, whatever. If it's, if I have a guy, preceptor, preceptee, which I've never had, actually. Only had ladies.
Girl squad.
Got to get a Merce every now and again up in here.
Yes.
But, I think when you think about like all these new nurses now coming into this job, it's intimidating. It's always been intimidating being a nurse.
Absolutely. It's
add COVID in, and you're like,
as a brand new baby nurse, I can't, I think about that with nursing students that were like seeing COVID unfold while they're in nursing school, and they're like, all right, this is what I'm getting into. Do I still want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I would have been so shell-shocked to try to do that.
Yeah.
But I applaud them in so many ways for their resiliency with this.
We will be right back to this episode. We just want to take a brief moment to shout out the company that makes this show possible, American Mobile. If you're a nurse interested in traveling, visit AmericanMobile.com to explore the amazing benefits that American Mobile has to offer. Featuring short and long-term contract opportunities at leading facilities across the country with higher earning potential, W-2 employee status, and a flexible schedule, American Mobile is your advocate for career success. Visit AmericanMobile.com to begin your travel nursing adventure today. And now, back to the show. I was a really shy nurse coming out, actually, 7 years ago on orientation, because it's so you know nothing, and you have this badge that says that you know lots of things. You just came out of nursing school, and there was just so, and I think that's one of the craziest things about starting out as a nurse is you're 20 or 21 and you are just thrown into, and in the critical care setting, I can't even imagine. But like you're thrown into these the worst days of people's lives, and you so badly want to know how to say the right things and, you know, respond appropriately. And it's amazing what we end up learning how to do so quickly. You know, it's not surprising that so many people burn out, you know, so early on.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I can't imagine, like, I mean, you and everybody does it, you know, like everybody, after you get your, you know, BSN college degree, everybody comes out that young that, you know.
Yeah. It's crazy thinking about where we were 7 years ago. We were brand new nurses together at the same hospital with meeting new friends, which is cool. But
yeah,
I had patients. Are you old enough to be in here?
Oh,
and I'm like,
all the time.
I am. Graduated nursing school.
Are you sure you're my nurse?
Yeah. And
yes,
it definitely takes a sense of confidence to confidently say, like, you know, yes, I am fully equipped to, whether or not you sometimes feel that in yourself, but you have to be able to say that to instill confidence in your patients.
Yeah.
To trust you.
And I felt like, I mean, if you can show, like, I think, I mean, it definitely comes with, like, the more years you have, then the less, you know, imposter syndrome you have, right? But I still, like, I felt like I got by as a new nurse, like, just by showing the patients, like, I'm very competent in what we're doing, probably more so than some other nurses, because I'm learning all of this right now, and it's all fresh in my head, and I there's like such a pressure on myself to do well and to be the best. And, you know, so I think when you show that as a new nurse, that kind of like curbs some of those comments, you know, in the beginning.
It's tough though to feel that.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough. I remember feeling burned out, like in the first, you know, couple years, you know, like so much anxiety. I had so much anxiety about work.
Yeah.
And
I did too. And I think I hit it well. And I think this year also really like showed that. I think I was, you know, I as a new grad within the first like 3 years, you feel that burnout, like you were saying, with like feeling all that stress. And then you kind of, I think there's always like that 3-year hump, right? That's what I've experienced anyways, where you feel that burnout and then you can kind of get over that, or people decide to go other ways in their nursing career. And then you just kind of chug right along, and then 2020 happens and COVID happens. And for me, I was definitely in very much denial about my anxiety with work and with coming in and taking care of this unknown virus. And it really took a very open conversation at like 3 a.m. on night shift, which is, I feel like, where the best conversations with your coworkers happen.
It is.
You learn the most about your coworkers at 2, 3 a.m. And one of my colleagues, we were all eating lunch and we're, you know, spaced out in our break room. And she's like, "Is everybody okay? Are we okay?" And we're all like, "I don't think so." And I think it took that dialogue of people being like, it's okay to feel like you're struggling. I think we've experienced a lot of trauma this year in ways nobody ever fathomed. But now that we've all admitted it and we are talking about it, like, hopefully that can help us heal.
Yeah.
That was 6 months ago. And I think I'm a different person than I was 6 months ago, because I've really worked on myself, and I've, you know, sought counseling to help with that. And I think for, you know, those listening out there, like, it's okay to feel that, and it's okay, but know that there's other people feeling that, but always it's okay to seek help with that. And I think for me, I'm a very no one's going to see me break down type of person. And I think to finally have that moment of clarity and recognize that it's okay, and then sharing that with some of the younger nurses that I think look up to me and look up to some of my other colleagues. And I cry too in the shower. It's okay, but like we'll get there together.
Right. Yeah, I know. Because you do. I'm the same way. I cover everything because, God forbid anybody ever sees me, upset, like for something at work but it's going to come out at some point. It may come out when I get home, like, projecting it on my husband. Like, so it's those conversations are so important to just, if you're frustrated, like, it's okay.
Yeah. That's why when you texted me about this podcast, I was like, yes, sign me up, whatever you need me to, I'm down. This is great because I think, it's nice to talk about the fun and normal sides of nursing, but like it's real and it's challenging. And I think it's hard to explain it to other people.
Oh,
how do you explain that to someone who's been able to work from home for the past 12 months? And that's a whole other kind of stress that like I would lose my mind if I had to work from home. But it's hard to relate to that. And so I think when you texted me saying that you had this really awesome opportunity to, have me on, and I'm humbled to be here. I think this is a really great conversation for people to hear.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, like, when I was thinking of people to have on, you were perfect to have on because you have, you lived in the thick of COVID, you were just constantly there as charge, working through it all. And you have had so much experience already in the same unit, you'd been on the unit for almost, your whole career.
Yeah.
And so, I knew that you would have like a wealth of knowledge and like a really interesting perspective on this whole, I feel like we're all kind of processing it. I feel like I'm starting to process like what happened, everything that happened last year, I mean, cause a lot of times, you just kind of dampen it all down. So you can like keep going to work. So.
Yeah. So you can function and, make it normal in your head that what we're seeing and what we're doing is normal. But, it wasn't at the time. It definitely still shouldn't be. But I think we've adapted to make things as smooth as we can, especially for our patients and their families. Like, I never imagined when I became a nurse. I mean, I graduated from nursing school 7 years ago yesterday.
Congrats. Oh my God, me too.
Yeah, you do. My mom sent my family group chat a picture of us from my pinning ceremony 7 years ago. And I'm like,
how?
No way. How is this
such
happening?
A different human now.
Yeah.
I was so young.
So young. Well, and I laughed because my brother is like 9 years younger than me at 8.5, and he looks like a baby. And we were like laughing about that. But also I was like reflecting on, nursing and my career. And I would have never imagined like 7 years ago that I would have to FaceTime family members to see them. And, for people to go weeks and months without seeing their loved ones. Like I can't imagine going through that as a loved one, but also to be on the like other side and taking care of that is challenging.
I want to know your craziest COVID nursing story.
Oh God. I think those first couple of months, man, all of that, you come into work and everyone's like, what are we doing? What's happening?
Different policy every single day.
How do we don our PPE safely? Actually, I was talking to one of the other nurses the other night about it because I was trying to think about, let's think about some stories. Let's think about, knowing that I was going to be talking with you today. There was one shift where we had like a influx of, I think we had like 3 or 4 admissions overnight, and I was the daytime charge. And at that time, we actually had to like manage the unit. We had 2 charges. So we were both like running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to support staff. But we had, I think, 2 or 3 patients get intubated right at shift change. And then we had 7 different times where we either proned or supined a patient, which requires 4 to 5 people in the room, a lot of coordination. And at that time, the MICU, we proned, but very infrequently. We did it for ARDS with like flu or whatever, but gosh, we were not proficient at it.
Seeing a patient on their stomach is a very odd sight.
You're like, what is happening?
This doesn't seem right.
Yeah. And then you walk into COVID, 3 months ago, and it's like half the unit's on their belly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember we were literally, my attending came and sat down at the nurse's station with me. And she's like, wonderful, one of my favorites. And she sat down, she goes, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? Because we literally went down the line of the hallway and we're like, okay, who are we proning? Who are we flipping back on their belly? Okay, this patient just got intubated. And I walked 8 miles that day on my Apple Watch. I'll literally never forget. I was like, oh my gosh. Got my cardio in today, but
jeez.
And then right at shift change, we ended up getting an admission from an outside facility, like a smaller hospital in the area with way limited resources. And this guy was so sick. He came in with really low O2 sats, and we ended up like emergently flipping him at like right at shift change. And then the following week, I was at the bedside. Yay. Love being at the bedside when I finally get to be.
Right.
And I get a phone call saying like, I'm going to be getting an admission, and I'm getting report on this patient. And the nurse that's giving me a report is like, yeah, we've been having a really hard time getting this guy's oxygen sats above like 80% all day. And he's intubated and sedated. And I was like,
ooh.
And they're flying him? Like, they feel okay flying him? And they're like, yeah, they're getting him on the stretcher right now. I think his stat's like 76%. And I was like,
they better book it.
I was like, oh no. Oh crap.
Oh my God.
So I run in the back, and I'm talking to my NP, and I was like, I am very concerned about this patient. And luckily the flight was super fast. So we were in the room, and they are running him down the hallway. And we finally get him flipped onto the bed, pulled over, and he was satting 32% when he got there. I was
what?
Like 30, his PaO2 was 38 on that blood gas.
Oh my God.
So we were like full throttle, tried to get him stabilized. And, we worked really hard on him. Luckily, I got him through the shift, but, it was insane. That was when I was like, this is horrible. This is horrible. I mean, it was not fun from it's critical care can be fun, but in sick ways, right? Like your patient's not doing well, but you're like in there doing all the things, but that was not fun.
Yeah.
Like that was not, it was like looking at this guy, like he was young, like he was in his 50s. I think he was around the same age as my parents. I'm like, this shouldn't be happening, but
that's so insane.
Those are the two that really like stand out to me when I think about like last year with like, what just is like even
chaos
happening? Yeah.
And acuity.
Okay. I was telling one of the, newer Clin 2s at the time, because she was like, these patients are so sick. And I said, I have been an ICU nurse for 6 years at the time, whatever. This is the sickest unit I have ever seen when you look down the hallway and every single patient is vented.
Yeah.
Usually in your ICUs, you got patients getting ready to go to the floor. You have some like breaks in acuity. And I was like, I have never been in a sicker ICU than this ICU.
Yeah.
So that's wild.
That's nuts. That's crazy. What's like one of the most, so before I started in the MICU, I only had one day in the COVID ICU, but I was working in the COVID acute care floor, all the time. But there was one day that I got to experience the ICU, and something that really stuck out to me. I mean, other than being like a very well-oiled machine, I think by the time that I got there, I think everybody was, I mean, it's kind of like the same day to day, like you have this same type of patients and like, but I remember seeing the wall of pictures of patients that have, it was pictures of patients in clinic for their follow-ups.
Yeah.
And they, I don't know if the wall has a name, but under the picture,
COVID conquerors.
COVID
That's what we call it, the
conquerors.
COVID conquerors.
And it had the number of days that they were on the ventilator or ECMO or, and I was like, this is such an inspiring wall.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be, can you think of a story that was that, or like a situation where you felt like it was rewarding or like fulfilling?
Yeah, that wall, to touch on that, one of actually the same attending that I was talking about a couple of minutes ago, she's one of the docs that sees these patients in clinic. And that was her idea.
That's
She
cool.
was like, I think this would be really helpful for staff members because for us, like, we get them to, if they survive their acute illness, they go to the acute care side. And then, we don't ever discharge patients from the ICU. It's like very, very rare.
Yeah.
So we weren't really, we were like, yay, they go to acute care, but we weren't really seeing the like after effects of it. And I think a lot of us were struggling and not knowing like, how are they doing?
Right.
And so that was her idea, was to take pictures with patients' permission, and then they've gotten updated. Like there's pictures like behind some of the newer pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Seeing the first patient that I ever intubated on that wall, that is probably the most like rewarding, or like it's a really great, it's hard to explain. Seeing her up there was the coolest thing ever because she looks so normal.
Yeah.
That was when, at our hospital, we were fortunate where, we had an addition that just got put on to the hospital, like this huge addition, increasing our bed size by like, I don't even know how many. But the units weren't filled yet. So once, we realized we were going to be getting more patients, we actually moved from like the regular MICU to a separate unit. But
building.
Before that, we were
completely separate building.
Oh gosh, it's like completely different buildings. You got to walk them, forever to get back to the old MICU, we call it MICU proper. And when we were on, the MICU we had kind of separated our MICU patients from COVID patients. My first patient that I helped intubate was on acute care, which they're connected to the regular MICU. And she like completely decompensated right before shift change on night shift. And I went out and they decided, we weren't sure with the aerosolization of the virus, like, could we safely bring her? We didn't really know what we could do.
Yeah.
So I intubated her on the acute care floor. I helped intubate her. And we transported her back to the MICU, and I helped prone her that night. And she was my first intubation, my first prone, my first COVID positive patient that I was actually in her room. So seeing her photo up there, like nothing brings me more joy than seeing that and being like, we can do it,
That's got to be
it
one
brings
of the
hope.
It's got to be one of the hardest things about ICU is that really, I mean, once they're well, they leave. Or once they're not sick enough to be in the ICU, they leave. You really don't get to. I mean, acute care we kind of see that, but not in the same. I mean, like we'll see like people with chronic diseases or like spinal cord injuries, or something like they come so or strokes, they come so deconditioned and debilitated, and then they go off to rehab and you never see them again, unless they, come walking back up on the unit and they're normal and you're like, oh my God. But that's that's gotta be hard in the ICU, but it's a trade-off, I mean,
Right.
I had to think about that, like in transitioning into the ICU, but like I've worked in rehab, worked in clinics, so I see, I saw the other side. It's like I'm ready to see this side now.
Yeah. And we get patients who will come back and visit, seeing like thank you cards get written. We've had a lot of like family members send us, my dad was here 6 months ago. Here's some donuts. Thank you. Like he's doing great.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Like that's really cool. And just hearing how they're doing is really wonderful. So one of like our patients that was there for quite some time, her family got us this plaque as a thank you plaque, and that's up on the COVID Conquerors board too. Like our family thanks you so wholeheartedly for taking care of it. It was like such a kind thing to write, and we all saw that and we're like, it's like so nice because she was so sick. I was like I didn't think that I was really concerned she wasn't going to make it. And she did. And she was back at home thriving. They sent us a really nice letter of how she was doing. So that's
awesome.
Cool. Yeah. That's a win.
I'm glad that there was a need, like that need to feel like validated and understand where people, like the need to come full circle was acknowledged and identified, and like you had that resource for the ICU, because I'm sure it was just tough. It was so tough.
Yeah. It's still tough. It's weird. Like now we're seeing younger people come in who haven't been like vaccinated, or we haven't really had our like, old grannies and grandpas from the nursing home because they're all vaccinated. So get vaccinated, people. Could go on a soapbox about that, but I won't.
Right.
But yeah, that's actually the most recent challenge. I think the past probably month or two is seeing how we've had like people in their like 20s and 30s come in, and we're like, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah. I did. I mean, we were on the COVID unit the other night, the other day, just like walking through with the orientation coordinator. And I was like, walking through the unit, and I was like, that guy looks pretty young. That guy looks pretty young too. Like what is, so there is like a trend there. I thought it was,
Yeah. One of the medical directors, I asked him about that because he does a lot of like research, and he's pretty outspoken in the medical community about, and like kind of publicly about, COVID. He has like, he's been doing like his Monday talks. And I asked him, I was like, what's going on? And he was like, no, like we're seeing the trends of like people haven't gotten vaccinated yet coming in because all the grannies and grandpas got vaccinated in December. So I think it's
true. They were first.
It's great that it's opening up for the general public to be afforded that opportunity.
Yeah.
To hopefully kind of help curb it a little bit, get some herd immunity.
Yeah, dude. I'm over it. I'm so over it.
I know.
We got to get herd immunity for our weddings.
Girl. I know.
We're both COVID brides.
COVID brides. Let's go.
Represent.
Yeah.
Although I got married last September, but like we had our ceremony, but I've had to push back the reception twice now, and you've had to push back, your wedding twice, and so
severely downsize.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's, it is what it is. I'm just excited to I'm 30 days out today.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Exactly 30. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
So we're excited. My fiance, for like a little background on him, he's an ECMO specialist here. So it's actually been pretty interesting the past year. I've worked with him more than I have in 5 years, he's been on the unit. So we get to see each other in action, which is pretty cool, but super fortunate that he gets it. Like he sees it and he gets it. And, it wasn't a question when we were pushing our wedding back both of those times. It was like, oh yeah, like we're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's like when they see what you go through, all the, it's like I like struggled with that last year, like we were trying to figure out if we were going to do it, if we weren't, if we were going to, we were like, it's still in that, like just trying to figure it out. But, seeing it, I just couldn't. And I'm so happy for, the people that were able to like have their day. And, I don't like want to, say anything bad about anybody, but I couldn't do it. And Matt
I
knew,
couldn't either.
Matt saw me come home every day and like the struggles that like last year had, and like being around all of those patients, and, there was no question.
Mm-hmm. But I look at my guest list, which is like tiny now. I think almost everybody is vaccinated. And that's cool. Like, that's awesome. That's such a cool feeling,
Yeah.
And I've gotten so many texts from friends that are like, I just want you to know, I got my second vaccine today. I'm like, and when I got my vaccine right before Christmas, that was, I think, the first time that I actually like put on social media anything about, I'm usually a pretty like happy person. I feel like when I, am on my Instagram and stuff, I'm like, this is not, I don't like to be negative on here. Like, I want people to, there's enough negativity in the world. Like, I'm not going to get it from me, but I felt just so like empowered to just speak how I felt and how the year had gone, or the 6 months had gone, whatever, because there was so much question about the vaccine. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to be real. I'm going to do a real post about what I have seen.
I did the same thing.
And my response to it was like, I was worried. I was like, oh, is this people going to be negative on here? Are they going to say? And I was so humbled by people's response to that, and reaching out to me and checking in and just thanking me, and, nurses and healthcare workers and respiratory therapists and just our techs, and just like people just thanking us for everything we've done. I'm like, okay, that was the right thing to do, because I started crying when I got vaccinated. One of my coworkers vaccinated me. I saw her at the clinic that day, and I was like, oh, can you vaccinate me?
Like,
give it here.
Full circle. Yeah, right.
Right here.
I hear you.
And I like started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is a light.
Yeah.
This is a light that I think we all needed.
I felt the same way. I felt really like a weight after the first one. Just felt like very hopeful. Like, okay, we could be out of this. Like, we've just been living it for so many months. And like, that was the first day in so long that I was like, yeah, this actually will end at some point.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
One can hope.
Yeah, right. It will. It will end. It will end. Knock on wood.
Yeah. I think it's always something about it's always gonna be there in medicine, right? Like, there's always gonna be, but like, I guess we just have to learn to live with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
However we can.
I wanted to talk about a interesting conversation that I had with the orientation coordinator the first week that I came into the NICU. And it was that day, it was me, it's another girl that is also an experienced nurse, or three. There was three of us that were experienced, and then there was one tech, and we were all coming to the NICU. And Nicole, her name's Nicole, she was, just kind of going through like what to expect with the NICU. And she had a really transparent, really necessary conversation about the amount of death that we're going to see on the unit. And I mean, I should have known that conversation was coming, but I was like so appreciative that she did have that conversation with us. And she was pretty much like, you're going to see a lot of death. And you have to find a way you have to find somebody to talk to. It doesn't need to be a nurse, doesn't need to be your, significant other. It doesn't, but just somebody that you can, use, or in your toolkit, to have some type of resiliency. And it was definitely an eye-opening conversation. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel like you've kind of acquired that skill set of resiliency, or do you feel like you still struggle with the amount of mortality that you see in the MICU?
Yeah, I'm glad Nicole was blunt about that. She's like, it's necessary. You can't really sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
I, as a new grad, I was not ready. I did not realize what type of unit I was stepping into. I thought it was a really cool unit. I thought I was going to learn a lot, jack of all trades, master of none, right? Like you see so much.
Yeah.
But it took some time. I had my first patient pass when I was on orientation, and that was a very hard day. And I was really lucky because, well, one of your friends from nursing school, Kelsey, was living with me at the time. And I remember texting her that day saying, like, my patient died today. And I came home to and I will never forget this. I still have the note actually. She wrote a note, and she was working night shift that night. And she left me a note and a bracelet. And it was a compass bracelet. And she wrote me such a kind note saying it's okay. This is the first, but you've been guided into this role for a reason. And that, I don't know if Kelsey remembers this. Kelsey, if you're listening, I still think about that. I think you're placed in positions in your life where you're supposed to be that person for someone. And it took I won't lie to you, it took a solid 2 years. And I think that's because I was a new grad, and you go through a lot in that transition phase as a new graduate nurse where you have to learn so much in such a short period of time and, balance that and being in the real world. But I go back to that where there is so much death on that unit. And I think sometimes the death doesn't bother me. It's the prolongation of life where should we be doing this? And when we think about futility of care and is this right? Should we offer? You have all these things to offer. You have a big platter of things, right? We can keep people alive, but it always begs the question of should we? Is this right? Is this, is this right for this patient? And I think learning that and I think I'm okay. I have become okay with death because it is better for the patients to be able to die with some sort of dignity than to be pressing on their chest. And, learning that and being okay with families coming to that realization, helping them come to that realization. And I think about that compass. I'm supposed to be here to help talk to these family members and loved ones and know that this is not just my patient. This is not just a person with a breathing tube in, lying in the bed. This is someone's mother, father, grandfather, brother, and trying to, with a small piece of myself, put myself in their position to be able to help guide them to make a decision that is heart-wrenching for people, especially if they've never had those conversations with family members before. And then it has made me be able to have these challenging conversations with my own parents and talking about my grandparents and what is right for, or not the right way to die, but how to be able to give somebody's death some dignity. Yeah. And that is, I think, finding within yourself to become okay with that. I have an easier time with that than I do when I'm looking at this patient and the family's they're going to be okay. We're going to keep going. And I'm I have a harder time. Yeah. Dealing with that than
that's
a patient, family members.
Such an incredible skill to have those incredibly difficult conversations with people. It's an incredible thing, Sam, to have that. I feel fulfilled with end of life patients, I think, in the same way that I don't mind death, because I know that I can be very therapeutic and I can be the right person for that patient and their family during that time. I know that I can help them through that process. So death, I mean, that's my role. I'm the nurse in that. I'm not inserting myself into how they feel in that moment. That's not what my job is. My job is to facilitate this process. Yeah. And, you know, so some of those patients have been very fulfilling, but I mean, it's going to be a big change to be in the initial conversations of that. I mean, that's, I can't even think about being that person.
I learned a lot just by listening and watching my peers and some of my mentors on the unit, how to go about saying things delicately firm is how I like to think of it, because you have to be firm with what you're saying, but you also have to be compassionate. And, you know, it's hard, but I think you just have to be able to cry, right? Like, I cry with family members. Like, I will cry with them. Not like boohoo cry, but like show that I am like human. I'm not just coming in here and being like, nope, we have to do this, and this. Like, showing that compassion side, I think, does go a long way with family members, remembering that you see their person as like their loved one in a bed as their loved one and not just a patient. But then when you kind of like, when you leave work and like Nicole was saying, you're trying to find how you deal with that. I think some of the best ways I can decompress that is like going on a nice long walk. It's tough in between shifts because you want to like go to bed and not be able to. Sometimes just zoning out on trash TV. It sounds so silly. Real Housewives. Like, and it's you can just kind of like zen yourself and just like not think about anything. And then a good long cry in the shower and a phone call to like my mom really helps. You know, don't tell many details, but just, it was a hard day, Mom. Like, it was, you know, like HIPAA, but like, you know, just like very vague. Like, it was just a really, really hard day.
Yeah.
And she has no idea. My mom does, you know, she works for Hasbro Toy Company, so she sees a lot of joy. But, you know, just having somebody who, no matter what, will listen to just whatever I have to say. And, you know, the best people are to talk to some of our coworkers, you know, when we go out for like wine days. And
for sure,
that is sometimes the best, is just being able to talk about those experiences. But I try to think about, I take that, I release all of like my frustration, my sadness, my whatever about the situation. And then I put it in my box and I tie a nice bow on it and I just kind of put it on the shelf. Yeah. And sometimes the whole shelf gets cleared. Like, I am like boohoo crying, like, this job is so hard. That's very rare, I think. Yeah. But I just have to put it in a place where, like, when I look back at things, like, it's okay. And it has to be okay. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to function in this job. Yeah. And it definitely isn't for everybody, but like, I'll help you find tools. We'll be okay. Yeah. We'll take our dogs on walks, you know? And, right. You know, 9 times out of 10, it is okay. And there's always that like 1% where there's something really crummy happens. And you know, I've gotten phone calls from some of my coworkers and like, I need to just like vent about this situation and just like hear that like what I did was okay, or how should we go about doing that. I think problem solving situations is also super therapeutic. Yeah, for nurses
for
in
sure.
general, like
just like talking
we're problem
through
solvers.
Exactly what you know what happened.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I think like end of life stuff like that, we could go on a whole other podcast about this, Maggie. But dude. It's tough, and it's tough to work through. But you got me in your corner. We'll work through it together. You know. Yeah. I think the day that it becomes easy is the day that it is time to leave the ICU. And that is what I've been told for years. Is one of my preceptors who's been a bedside nurse for 30 years, and I hold her to such a high, admiration with how she is one of the best bedside nurses I've ever seen. Just her compassion and how she just treats patients with such dignity. She has said that to me. The day that this job becomes easy, seeing this happen, and that's when it's time to bid it farewell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that when there's hard days, when I'm upset. I'm like, well, I'm human, and this meant something to me. This family, this patient, they meant something, not only to me, but to so many other people. So like, if you don't mourn that, then it's time to step out and to leave, because you're not doing anybody any good, including yourself, but especially your patients.
That's so true.
And I believe that like wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's great food for thought. That's a great thing to put in the back of my head,
Mm-hmm.
If we knew what we knew now, like before nursing school, before COVID, before last year, that you would go through the things that you have in your career in this past year, do you think you would make the decision again to pursue this path?
I think so. I think if you had asked me 6 months ago when I was in a little bit of a tougher headspace, I would have questioned it. And that's okay. But I think like I was always meant to do this job. And that like it brings forward a lot of emotions when you think about that. But like I've had the privilege of caring for some wonderful people and wonderful family members, and even with COVID, and I wouldn't change it. I mean, like I would change last year. I would really like for that to not happen. But when I think about my career as a bedside nurse, like I've been afforded some pretty incredible opportunities in taking care of patients and family members and meeting coworkers and getting to know people, that it's been so hard, but I'm very proud of what I do. I feel it. That's all.
It's in here.
Deep in here.
Born to do this.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean, so many people can't do the work that you do, and you do it so well. I mean, just in the last few days that I've seen you, I'm so excited to learn from you.
Thanks, Maggie. It's gonna be good. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
I'm excited for phase 2. That's how we break up orientations. Like phase 1, it's kind of like kind of easing sort of into things,
quote unquote. Yeah,
but phase 2, it's when we get to go deep in critical care, and I freaking love critical care. It's so interesting. So I'm
so excited to learn. Even just today, I mean, I was doing basic EKG rhythm strip stuff. And there's so many things that you just don't have time to delve into and look into in acute care. But today it's you look at their spiked T wave, and it could be hyperkalemia. So your renal patients that haven't been to dialysis, that's probably what their EKG is going to look like. Or
big Mickey population too.
Yeah. It's just, I was like, this is so I can look at a strip and be like, okay, this is what the rhythm is. And I know why, this one piece of the EKG strip is the way it is because of this lab. I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited to be able to really critically think and focus on one or two people and have, a great team and get to work with physicians closely and, be respected all around and
work with some very, very intelligent minds.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love listening to some of them talk. And sometimes around I'm like, dude, I have so much work I got to do. Can we just we got to go. But, there are some days I'm like, oh God, that's so cool. That's so interesting. So that's fun when we work days together. You want them to hurry up, but also you're wait, but this is very interesting. When they start really assessing the chest x-rays, there's a couple of attendings that they take a literal year and a half to round. But then they start just completely dissecting this chest x-ray, and you're it just looks they're fluffy or they have atelectasis. Right. But they're but why? Where, what's happening here, and what is that showing here? One of our attendings likes to draw on all of our glass doors.
It's awesome.
But it's cool. You're like, oh,
yeah,
making
Mark
a mess
it
of
all
everything.
up.
But it's really fun. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yay.
I think this is a good place to stop. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so happy that
This
we
was
were
so
able
much
to
fun.
do this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Max. This was so great.
And I will see. When do we work next? Wednesday?
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
All right, girl. I'll see you at work.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.
That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in to Nursing Uncharted. To learn more about today's episode, make sure to explore the show notes at americanmobile.com/nursinguncharted. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a guest. If you're a nurse interested in traveling, visit americanmobile.com to explore the largest database of travel nursing jobs in the industry and the amazing benefits that American Mobile has to offer. Also, a special thanks to producer Jonathan Carey, assistant producers Katie Schraubman and Sam McKay, and Aiden Dykes for the music and editing. Until next time, take care of yourself.